Hey everybody, it is Thursday and it is a brand new year and it is time to get to thriving. So I had spoken before that we are going to start building your foundation this year. So we're going to start with all the foundational stuff, which is not my favorite or the funnest. However, it is like super, super important. So we're going to have a little biology lesson today and go back to signal transduction at the cellular level. I'm going to go over briefly some highlights to kind of help you all organize this stuff. This is good for nursing students. This is good for pre-SRNAs, and this is good for CRNAs or SRNAs in school because this stuff is literally on boards. All right, so let's dive right in. Obviously, big umbrella picture of this, we're just talking about communication, right? The cells have to communicate, right? You have your, remember lipid bilayer and all this stuff. You have your outside layer and it's got to communicate, the ligand's got to communicate with the inside receptors to make a change, such as bronchodilation or increased contractility or decreased platelet aggregation or whatever it may be. So the first part of this is just your ligand, right? Which is a lot of times the drug we're giving, or epinephrine in the body, norepinephrine in the body, insulin, whatever it may be, right? So you have a ligand, which is going to be considered your first messenger. It's the first person, the first thing that is like, all right, I got something to say. Like epi is like, I got something to say. I got to increase that blood pressure, increase the heart rate, whatever it may be. And then we know that a ligand has to bind with a receptor for something to happen. So these are the four type of ways that the ligand can communicate with inside the cell. So you have ligand-gated ion channels, which is your acetylcholine, which is your neuromuscular blockers, where they work, in that area at the neuromuscular junction. GABA, which is where your anesthetics work. And then you have glutamate, which is glutamate glycine as part of how the NMDA receptors work. You also have membrane bound, which is kind of like this middleman. It's metabotropic, and that activates cytoplasm receptors. So that is considered like your GPCR, the G proteins. That is how actually epinephrine works. That's how muscarinic drugs work, cholinergic drugs. Opioids work by G proteins. Communicating by cell membrane receptors, membrane bound. I think of that as like the middleman, the middle person. Catalytic, another way. Insulin, erythropoietin, that's how they communicate. Catalytic receptors have to do with like kinases, adding phosphates, stuff like that. And then you have your nuclear intracellular receptors, which is how steroids communicate, and that has to do with transcription to the nucleus, okay? So that's kind of the big umbrella picture of that initial step of how when you inject a drug or the body's doing something, the ligand has to bind to a receptor, and these are some of the ways that it does that to get its communication across. All right. And then to further, the next step of that is an effector enzyme. So now that our ligand has bound with our receptor, now some type of enzyme has to be formed in order to increase or decrease either the activity of an enzyme, either some type of gene expression or some type of cell signaling. Okay. So it's almost like a ligand again. It's like the ligand inside the cell, right? It's like, okay, I got this message. This is made. Now I got to carry this message so we can complete the final step here. And then second messengers. You guys are going to be reading and hearing all about second messengers. So second messengers are all about, your CAMP, which is a big one to know that for boards, your CGMP, IP3-DAG, and calcium. Calcium is also actually a second messenger. Calcium has so many functions in the body, it is like insane, okay? So those are kind of your steps to how this works. An example to kind of put it all together is I wanted to use epinephrine, right? So you are either hang a bag of epinephrine or you're in a fight or flight response. Epinephrine is your ligand. Like I said, it binds to the receptor membrane via GPCR receptor, activating G proteins inside. Those G proteins connect up with adenylate cyclase, which is the effector enzyme, which is going to increase the production of CAMP, the second messenger, which is going to cause things like bronchodilation, preventing platelet aggregation, increasing contractility, and dilating the renal vasculature. Okay, so brief overview. Those are all the things I want you all to know. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I'm excited to build the foundation with you this year. All right. Enjoy. Have an awesome rest of your Thursday. Bye, guys.